Mr. Masebe, thank you for your time. Good morning to you. Now, quite concerning there, I had a conversation with the lawyer Ulrich Roux, and he says that it seems that you're at loggerheads. This is between yourself as, the province, but also himself as the representatives of these families. Where are you now from your perspective in terms of conversation?
Well, I don't know why he says we're at loggerheads. We're not. In 2019, the families that had made the claims after Justice Moseneke had given his award agreed with the government that the financial compensation will be paid in two parts. One part would go to the family representative who was identified as the claimant, and the other part, which is 50%, would be kept in trust for the mental health care user on whose behalf the claim is being made. This is in accordance with the law, which stipulates that where a mental health care user is unable to look after their own affairs, a trust could be appointed, or a trustee or a curator could be appointed to look after their affairs. So we all know that because these are people these are surviving mental health care users. It's not the deceased. So their affairs have to be, or their funds have to be protected.
Right.
We can't give all the money to the person, to the family representative who is making the claim.
All right, let's hold it right there for a moment due to time, and also just reflect and listen in to what Ulrich had to say. Let's have a listen in.
Still approximately 64,920,000 rand due to our clients. We represent 101 of the claimants in the matter. 91 of them have received half of the payment so far, whilst 9 of them are claiming the full amount of 1.18 million rand, and one claimant is claiming 610,000 rand. We sent off a letter of demand to the office of the Premier of Gauteng at the end of July, and we've been in communications with the Gauteng Premier's office, and unfortunately they have not adhered to our demand, so we are now approaching the Master of the High Court in order to be appointed as the administrators, who will then be placed in possession of the funds in order for the funds to be distributed to the families in accordance with the arbitration award handed down by Deputy Chief Justice Thabo Masebe.
Now, those are some of the claims made there by Mr. Roux, Mr. Masebe, saying that that letter of demand had been sent to the provincial government, but it seems that no response was given and no adherence to this letter as well was acknowledged.
No, the letter was responded to. We even had a meeting with him because he clearly doesn't understand the process. So we had a meeting with him to explain to him what was happening. Justice Moseneke gave his award in March 2018. And when he did so, he gave us 3 lists of people who should all be paid financial compensation. And he said we should make that payment by the end of June 2018. That was complied with. All the people that he said we must pay were paid the full amounts that were stipulated in his award by the time frame that he had given us, June. So by June 2018, all claimants were paid. Now what we're dealing with here, these are new claimants who came only after the award was made. So these are not covered by Justice Moseneke's arbitration award, because he says he could only make a ruling on the people who were part of his arbitration process.
With that being said, are you now aware that the lawyers have taken a step further by approaching the High Court? Are you aware of that? And if so, why do you think they're pursuing it? If that conversation and that letter of demand had been adhered to?
Tumelo, we can't adhere to a letter that says we must act outside of the law. Government has to act within the law. So what we are doing, as I said to you, an agreement was made between government and the claimants in February 2019 that the financial compensation will be paid out in two parts. 50% will be paid directly into the bank account of the person who's making the claim, and the other 50% will be held in trust for the mental health care user on whose behalf the claim is being made. Now, that's what the law tells us. Now, after that agreement was made, some of the claimants decided to pull out of the agreement, and they are now demanding that all the money, 100%, should be paid into their accounts, and that they don't want any portion to be administered by a curator or an administrator appointed by the High Court.
Mr. Masebe, due to time, I have to slot in this question quickly. I also had a conversation with one of the family members of one of the deceased under this tragic Life Esidimeni tragedy. His name is Mr. Ulrich Roux, and he had accused government of arrogance, of not, meeting them halfway as family members, but also of trying to bypass lawyer representatives and making calls to the family to try and speak to them directly. Are you aware of these allegations tabled against the provincial government?
Ulrich that you are referring to is one of the claimants. He was one of the people who agreed that the money shall be paid in two parts, 50% to the family member and the other 50% to be held in trust. He has now changed. He says all the money should be paid to the family members, disregarding the law. So we can't act outside of the law. An agreement was made in 2019. All parties must respect that agreement. If they are now walking away, unfortunately, government cannot act outside of the law.
Mr. Thabo Masebe, Gauteng spokesperson, thank you so much for your time this morning.